Okay, we know that Christ himself fulfilled the law. So what's the purpose of it?
Well, the purpose of the law, I can actually read that from Galatians 3:19, which says, "What purpose then does the law serve?" Which is Paul speaking. And he said it was added because of transgressions, which is another way of saying it was added because of sinning. Because the law in many respects was given to show us and demonstrate the fact that we are sinners and that we break it, basically. An example of that in terms of how we live today could be the road signs. You know, you got to go 30 miles per hour. And you know that's the law.
Yeah.
Now with the sign there, it's clear when you break it and go over it, or being caught and you're caught for speeding, you know you've broken the law because the law is you got 30 miles per hour. But if I took all those signs away and then took you to court to try and say you broke the speed limit, it's going to be much harder because you haven't been given the law to break in the first place. So the law sticks in your conscience and makes you know that this is how far you go. And that's what the law of God did basically for us. It showed us that we keep breaking it and we need not to. That was the ideal will of God, that we would keep. But in many respects he knew we couldn't, so that's why the law was given, because there had to be another means of us living the way that we're supposed to live by his power. So Galatians 3:19 to 22 speaks a lot about it, but it's also spoken about in Romans. Because if you know, I don't know, you might find this, sometimes I find when you know there is a rule, there's a desire in you more so to break it. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like the beginning with the garden, and God says, this is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but do not eat of it. You can have everything else. But I bet you Adam and Eve might have thought, why can't we eat of that tree? Do you know what I mean? And
curious.
Paul touches on that, because it says, but sin taking opportunity by the commandment is don't do, produced in me all manner of evil desire. So it drove something in him. For apart from the law, sin was dead. So when there was no commandment, no, you can't do, he didn't feel it as much. But as soon as the you can't do comes in, or do it this way, not that way, there's a desire in him to maybe test the waters, which is, you know, and we see that in experience in our daily lives. That's what happened. So the law again was there to kind of show us that is how we are. We have a tendency to want to delve and touch things that are forbidden, and God's trying to show us, like, look, you can't keep this law, and your tendency is to go the other way, even when you try not to do it. There's another thing I just want to point out from Romans 3, which says, Romans 3:20, therefore by the deeds of the law, no flesh should be justified. So in other words, by our own work and our behaviours, we won't be justified before God. So if you're trying to keep law and do it by your behaviour, you're still not going to be justified by God, because God's not having that. For by the law is the knowledge of sin. So that's the irony. By the very thing is put in there to say that you're out of line, is the very thing that's showing us that we are out of line. Like, you're right, God, you know, we can't do this. So at the end of the day, the law was just given to make sure that we understand that there's a standard. This is the standard required. God has shown us you can't keep it, and you need to have another way. So that's why he gave us the law. Christ fulfilled it because he could keep it and we couldn't.
Cool. That's brilliant.